All right, Larry Kruger here from the Pig and a Pickle Krug Show with a little 49er grade video from week one against the Steelers. But first, let's mention Pig and a Pickle, the title sponsor of the Krug Show. Check them out in Emeryville and Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week in both spots from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. or until they run out. Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in Northern California. Get the brisket chili. Go ahead and Damon and Mary and tell them that Larry Kruger sent you. Well, the Niners got a nice 30-7 win in week one over the Pittsburgh Steelers. And let's go unit by unit, position by position, and give these guys grades across the board. All right, let's start with Brock Purdy. And obviously, Purdy, this was a tough game. Why? Because, he's still battling back from the elbow. He didn't have a full off season. He's year two in this offense. There's been so much dialogue about the quarterback competition all summer. And here it is on the road against the Steelers. They got a killer outside pass rush. And, the place was going to be rocking and rolling. And Brock Purdy needed to play mistake-free football. And for the most part, he did. And so I'm going to give him an A-. Now, he did have 2 fumbles and lost one of them. But 19 of 29 for Purdy, 220 yards. He was really good on third down. He made a number of plays. He had 2 beautiful touchdown passes. He didn't throw a single interception. Stood in against the pressure, took 7 hits, had a key run in the fourth quarter to burn clock and help ice away the victory. So it wasn't a perfect performance from Purdy because of the 2 fumbles and he lost one of them. But A-, because when you can stand in against that rush, not turn it over, play as mistake-free football as he played, lead the team to 30 points, win on third down, do it against a really good defense on the road. It's impressive. So I'm going to give him an A-. Let's move on to Christian McCaffrey. McCaffrey, I'm also going to give an A-. McCaffrey was terrific. 22 carries, 152 yards and a touchdown. He averaged almost 7 yards a carry. He had 3 receptions for 17 yards. He had the play of the game, the 65-yard touchdown run in that third quarter. He had 1 fumble, but it was recovered. I just think that there's times where McCaffrey, doesn't have the best instincts and he doesn't necessarily get the most out of every carry. I don't think he's a natural runner at finding holes and that kind of thing. He's really special as far as his athleticism, his desire, his speed, his hands. I mean, he's a versatile weapon. He had a terrific all-around game. 25 touches, led the Niners. They won going away. He was the star. He had the biggest play of the game. I'm going to give him an A- just because I think there's more there. I think there was more for him, more to do for him. I think he could make a couple better reads on some of these runs. As far as Brandon Ayuk, I'm giving Brandon Ayuk an A. Brandon Ayuk was targeted 8 times. He caught 8 balls. Every time they threw it to him, he caught it. That's what we've seen all summer in training camp. He catches everything that's thrown to him. High balls, low balls. He'll sky 10 feet in the air to pick off a ball that's too high. He'll pick something off the grass. His catch radius is monster. 8 targets, 8 receptions, 129 yards, 2 touchdowns. Had an excellent block on the CMC touchdown run that probably, if he doesn't make that block, he probably doesn't, CMC doesn't get sprung for the touchdown there, and that was the difference in the ball game. So Ayuk, a solid A. Deebo Samuel, I'm going to give a B. He had 5 catches for 55 yards on 7 targets. He had 2 runs for 8 yards. He did have a penalty, or 2 receptions, I should say, for 8 yards. Or 2 runs, I should say, for 8 yards. 5 catches for 55 yards on 7 targets. But the 1 penalty, and he can do more. They didn't really spring him for big plays in this game. It was kind of a middle-of-the-road performance. No mistakes, and he's in great shape. But he just didn't have that super dynamic day that sometimes he does have. So I'll give Deebo a B. I'm going to give George Kittle a B-. He looked a little sore out there. He's been battling a groin injury. 3 catches, 19 yards on 6 targets. George doesn't make a lot of mistakes. He helps you out in the run game. I guarantee you his coaches would probably give him a better grade than that, but I'm saying B minus. I've seen him do a lot more in different scenarios. To me, he was out there battling, so just the fact that he suited up, I'd give him a solid B. But it wasn't a stellar performance from George, so I'll say B minus overall. Jauan Jennings, I got to give him a C minus. He was targeted one time and he dropped it, hit him in the hands on a crossing pattern with Patrick Peterson draped all over him. But when the ball hits you in the hands and you're a professional receiver, you got to catch it. So I'll say C minus for Jennings for not catching his one target. Elijah Mitchell, kind of more of an incomplete, but I'll give him a C, just a middle-of-the-road game. He only touched it 5 times. He had 10 yards, didn't bust one, didn't fumble, didn't make any big mistakes, but nothing great, nothing bad, just a middle-of-the-road C performance. The offensive line, I'm going to give a B. Now, they did allow 3 sacks of Brock Purdy. They allowed Purdy to be hit 7 times. But, man, when you factor in you're going up against T.J. Watt and Alex Highsmith, and those guys are really, really good. Not to mention Cam Hayward, who did leave this game with an injury. But they opened holes for the Niner running backs. The Niner running backs averaged 5.5 yards per carry. And the 3 sacks and 7 quarterback hits doesn't look great. But, take a look at later this year with some of these teams that play Pittsburgh. You're going to see 5, 6, 7 sacks. You're going to see 10, 11, 12, 15 hits on the quarterback. To give that team 3 sacks and 7 quarterback hits and to open run lanes for your running game and to see, CMC go for over 150 yards and the Niners going for 5.5 yards a carry, I'm giving the O-line a solid B across the board. I thought Banks looked really, really good. Burford had problems with penalties. McKivitz, is the headliner as far as, he struggled with T.J. Watt, but he also had far and away the most difficult assignment. I'm going to say it's a solid B. I think Banks deserves an A. I think Trent probably deserves an A. I thought Brendel did a solid job. They didn't get any interior pressure for the most part. And 5.5 yards a carry in the run game is damn good. So I'm going to give them, the offensive line, a solid B. The sponsor of today's video is Mojo Fantasy. Mojo Fantasy has introduced a whole new way to play fantasy football this season. It works by entering into contests and building a portfolio of players. The better your portfolio performs, the more cash you win. It's simple. The props you pick act like stocks, and you can buy and sell player stock live all game long. Play Mojo Fantasy alongside me. Check the link in the description and use the promo code KRUEG, K-R-U-E-G, and get up to $100 matched on your first deposit. I'm going to give the defensive line a solid B. Now, if I go individually, I'm giving Drake Jackson an A. No question. He got 3 sacks. I'm giving Nick Bosa a solid B to B+. He had a hit on the quarterback. He was strong against the run. But then I would give Hargrave, who had a late sack, probably a C. I'd give Hyder, who had a late sack, a C. I'd give Cleveland Farrell, who had 2 hits on the quarterback and made some real strong plays against the run. I'd give him a B. And I'd give Eric Armstead a B-. He only had 1 hit on the quarterback, but he was solid against the run all day. They stopped the run. I mean, they only allowed, 4.1 yards a carry. Now the Steelers, part of the game, when the score got out of hand, the Steelers stopped running overall. So I'm not really sure how good the run D really is. But I'm going to give the D-line a solid B. Drake Jackson lifts the whole group up. I mean, he had that motor going. And, man, he had a couple plays where he just kept coming. One of them was a coverage sack. One of them was a hustle sack. But 3 sacks in the day for Drake Jackson. He lifted the entire thing. I would say when you look at the Niner D-line, you say, well, they got 5 sacks. They got 9 hits on Kenny Pickett. That's a solid B. All right, let's go to linebackers. Fred Warner had 8 tackles. 5 of them were solo. He had a tackle for a loss. He had one of the biggest hits of the day on Najee Harris in the first quarter. He dropped a would-be pick 6. Otherwise, he was off to the races. Greenlaw had 6 tackles, and he had several hard hits. 3 solo. He had a tackle for a loss. So these 2 guys combined for 14 tackles, 8 solo, 2 tackles for loss, and they were dominating. I'm going to give the linebacking core an A. Oren Burks had a key tackle in this game as well, so that's 15 tackles for the linebackers. They didn't make any big mistakes. Freiermuth, the tight end, was pretty much a non-factor, even though he did have the short touchdown, the lone Pittsburgh touchdown. He was a pretty much non-factor in the pass game. I'm going to give the linebacking crew an A. They were really, really good. All right, let's move on to the defensive backfield. Hufanga gets an A for sure. He had an interception. He had a tackle for a loss. Mooney Ward gets an A as well. He had an interception. He played really, really well. Diamador Lenore, I would say, gets an A for 10 tackles, 8 solo. But there were some breakdowns. There were some inconsistency there. Ambry Thomas made a couple of mistakes. Gibson has had more productive games in the past. I would say I'll give the DBs a solid B+. Solid B+, even though Hufanga, Mooney, and Lenore all were in that A- category. I would say overall as a group, B+ for the secondary. Special teams, I'm going to give a solid B. Jake Moody was 3 for 3, made all of his field goals. Mitch Wishnowsky had 3 nice punts. 2 of them were beautiful touch punts that he downed inside the 10-yard line and gave the Steelers long fields. So those guys probably deserve an A. But the Niners probably deserve a C- or a D on the coverage units. I mean, it just all looked like there was the punt returns, the kickoff returns. It just looked like the Steelers were always one step away from busting one. So that kind of makes you nervous. And watching McFarland almost take one to the house a couple times makes you nervous about the coverage units. But Moody was great. Wishnowsky was great. Ray McLeod was fantastic. I would say a solid B. A C or a D for the coverage units, an A or a B for Moody, Wishnowsky, and Ray. And then let's go to Kyle Shanahan and the coaching staff. I'm going to give Shanahan an A. He went for it on a 4th down in the first quarter, something that he's oftentimes hesitant to do. I thought he had the right game plan. It was a tad conservative, but instead of taking risks, unneeded risks, he punted in situations. He had chances to go for long field goals or go for it on 4th down later in the game. And once they had the lead, he was conservative. He played field position. He had Mitch Wishnowsky bury them inside of their 10-yard line. He basically said, you know what? We're going to dare Kenny Pickett to drive the length of the field on the number 1 defense in the NFL. And Pickett couldn't do it. So I think it was a really smart game plan. I like to see Shanahan going for it on 4th down. There was good run-pass balance, 34 runs, 29 passes. So that was good to see. I'm going to give Shanahan an A. There was so much talk about Mike Tomlin and what a great coach Tomlin is and the slow starts that Shanahan's teams have gotten off to. But they were flying around on defense, making plays, playing fast, playing physical. You can't say the team doesn't play hard for Kyle because they always seem to. I liked some of the play calls, and I thought the conservative nature of Shanahan after they got a lead was smart. He made a calculated gamble that Pickett could not drive the ball the length of the field against the 49er defense. He was right. And he achieved offensive balance. Good play calls, good balance. Your team's flying around, playing hard. You go for it in a key 4th down early in the game to set the tone. I liked his game management skills. I don't always like him, but in this game I really did, and I'm going to give Shanahan an A. His team showed up ready to play on both sides of the ball. They didn't just bring energy. They brought energy and attention to detail and focus. I thought last year against the Bears in week 1, they brought energy, but not a lot of focus. They had busted plays. They had costly penalties. This time they played fast and physical, but they played within the rules. They held their composure. I think Shanahan emphasized to them the need for them to come out and play better football earlier in the year, and they did it on the road against the Steelers in hostile territory in one of the more difficult places to play. And they outdoed a really good football team a really good head coach, I should say, in Mike Tomlin, and got a win against a really good football team, I believe, in the Pittsburgh Steelers. So there you go. Overall, Ayuk gets an A, Debo gets a B, Kittle gets a B minus, Jennings gets a C minus, Mitchell gets a C, the O-line gets a B, the D-line gets a B, the linebackers get an A, the defensive backfield gets a B, the coaching gets an A, the special teams get a solid B. And the 49ers get a 30-7 win against the Pittsburgh Steelers, and they're at SoFi next week to take on the Rams. All right, hope you enjoyed the video on the grades for the 49ers in Week 1. Thanks to you guys for supporting the Krug Show. Thanks to our title sponsor, Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. And once again, thanks to all you guys for supporting the Krug Show on YouTube.